Perfect. So the glamping business, and we talked about this, it's an interesting concept because it's this and the luxury car rentals, like it's the what is proprietary to that business. Like that's the hard part about these business is that when you say, hey, we're using Airbnb, we're using Turo, we're using this, people are going, and especially when you have like real estate or anything kind of like they have this assumption. Do you have something in the glamping that says you do not own the real estate, is leasing? I'm sure you do have something in there.
Yeah, I
So
do.
people just don't read and then they waste time. However, what I would do is I would not worry about that as much as like, how can I get this business sold? I would really try to say, like, if you've got 50 potential buyers that are interested, what I would say is like, how many of those have you actually had conversations with? And if how many
Very few.
do you know their buyer box? How many of them are you following up with? Because the goal would be for us to use that. And I'm excited because we were supposed to record their third part of the course. We have 4 of them, and it's basically getting to the point that your business is live. How do I turn these buyers that I'm getting into more listings? How do I drive more business to myself, and more exposure and more things? So if you're getting 50, like what percentage of those have you actually talked to?
Very few of them. Very small
And
percent.
why is that?
Because of lack of follow-up on my part.
So the problem is if we're looking at like that, what's that bit? I mean, how much are you gonna make? 15 grand off that
Yep.
business?
Yep.
So are you making 15 grand off that bit, like potentially off that business? Or are you losing, let's just say if you got 2 more of those people, are you losing 30 to,
Sure.
like, I don't know, like think about it, can make 15% or 7.5% if you can go out and find a business owner, you can go find one that's on Biz by Sell, maybe do a co-op. You can make 7.5% off that if you think real estate and figure out those buyer box. I think what the thing that you don't want to miss is don't worry about that business as much because you
Okay.
can't push people to make an offer. You can try to woo them. You can try to get those people to want to like try to submit based upon that information, but you can't make anybody. But what you can do is you can get to know those people, what they're looking for, their buyer box, and say, listen, I think I can find something for that. And then it's all about going out and going, listen, go on Biz by Sell, go on the Facebook groups, that's what I talk about a lot in the next one. There's so many Facebook groups. And when Deb gets on here, I'm going to make sure she's getting on here because I talked to her a little bit ago, and let's see if she's on. Nope, she's not. I'm going to say, where are you at? She's my mom, so I can say that. Uh,
I think I get stuck in trying so hard. I want so bad to sell that business for that owner. And I'm missing the boat on other things. And
yes. But also, I think the other part, if you truly do want to sell that business, it's going to be building like a relationship with those buyers. And maybe it can circle back because let's just do a hypothetical. Listen, I really wanted that real estate. It was a really great deal. I thought I had real estate involved. Okay. And let's just say it's a first time kind of business buyer and they don't know what they don't know. Right. And so you start having these conversations, you start going through the buyer box and you figure out what they're looking for. And then you actually start throwing them some things that are out there for what fits their buyer box. And they go, that's just too expensive. I just don't want to do that. I can't do this. And then maybe that actually points them back
oh,
to
okay.
realization that glamping business was exactly what they wanted because it was a very low entry point that they could start a business, they could start learning that, and then they can take the next step. And then you can actually start becoming a business consultant for them and say, hey, listen, let's go this one, make some money. And maybe in 2 years, you can sell this business, or we can go look for something else that's gonna help this, or we can go look for more land. And you can really, she has the process, she has everything set up, and so you building those relationships with those people might actually spin it back to them because I mean, in real estate, we know that, first-time home buyers, they don't know much about what they know. They think they can get a lot. They think that they have these expectations. And usually you got to kind of pivot them around to actually come to a realization of what they can actually afford, what they can actually get, why they want to be in a certain area. And so I think it's the same thing. It's never going to help if you can't build those relationships with those 50 buyers, because you're losing money and you're truly not helping that seller, because, you know, we hope that somebody's going to go, yeah, that's it. But also you might have to let them realize, because how many more clicks are they making on other ones that they assume? So I think that your big thing that's going to take you over the top, Sherry, is going to be follow up.
Okay.
Like, it's going to be like, listen, setting time every day to say, no matter what, I have 1 hour of following up, text, email, call, text, email, call, and you go through this, right? And so I'm excited for this next course. There's like, I think the first course that we did was prospecting, which was the 30 days. The next one was a process, because it's getting it from, you know, it's discovery to live, and like basically going through the appointments, getting it live. And then the third one is really prospecting again, because now you have a listing, and it's how do you capitalize on that and use that as leverage. And then the last one will basically be a process of getting it closed. So I think the next one's going to be really, really powerful for you, because it's the follow up. Like, it's
Okay.
all follow up. So I hope that helped. Hope to answer your question a little bit.
Absolutely. That was really helpful.
I need to
Thank you.
motivate you to do some follow up. So I'm going to say
That's right.
1 hour of follow up
Uh-huh.
a day. When you get done following up with people, when you get done doing that hour, I don't need anything but just send me a check mark text. That's all
Okay,
I need.
I'll do that.
Because
I'll do
if
that.
you don't send me one, I know you didn't follow up. Like, you don't need to see
Mhm.
it say anything, because that's all there is, right? That's all that is. And then all of a sudden you're going to have this huge buyer box of people, this buyer portfolio of people. And then it's like, okay, well, what do I do with this information? And it's like, cool. There's so many resources for us to go find these sellers. It's unreal, and it's so wide open. So, great question. Anybody else got anything?
Thank you.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. The first one has to do with like maybe we were talking to a buyer, doesn't work out for us and for our business. Maybe it's purely just math. We get their buyer's box and then we find a business for them. Have we come up with a document where if we find them a business that we make sure we're going to get a commission on that?
You
Let's
could do,
assume that the business that they buy is not doesn't have a broker, because obviously I know if there's a broker then you just got to have some sort of agreement 50-50 60-40 whatever. I mean I don't
yeah,
know if we need a document for that as well, but I just haven't
yeah.
found anything.
So your document that you're looking for is the purchase agreement, because it's
Okay.
going to have your percentage in there.
Okay, so we just put it in that document in
Yeah, you
particular.
put it in there, because we're dealing with this one. This one, when if Deb gets on here now, I talked to her about 2 hours ago, and so now she's not. So, but if not, I'll tell you they explained the little thing, but it's very similar. That she's talking to somebody, a gas station. He's selling a gas station, and I think she's working. I think she's co-oping this, but not with another broker, like an internal broker. So like somebody has a buyer on our team. And she said, hey, listen, I can go find a gas station for you. She's really good at that. So she went and talked to this guy. And one of the brokers, who will leave unnamed because he's not here. So, but he was like, oh, we got to get that exclusive. I was like, why? Like, you don't have to put in the purchase agreement that you'll represent basically the buyer, and then you just get paid out that commission. There's no reason that you have to do like you have to have that listing. If he doesn't want to, don't let him to. Because think about this, they're business owners, right? This guy we found out owns 7 businesses. So he knows how to do this, and he's done it a time or two, right? And so he's like, I know how to do this, and so if you can just work with the buyer, don't even worry about the seller, as long as that seller agrees to that. Now, if you want to do it, because in this situation, Deb found out that the guy's got 7 other businesses, you might want to try to schmooze him a little bit, because he's going to want to sell those businesses, right? So I think that with that, it's just the purchase agreement. So the reason that we don't have just an NDA, and we have the reason that we have our like kind of different NDA, is because what you want to do with this, it's multi-purpose. It's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of NDAs, because in that situation, I don't want to have my buyer sign an NDA with the seller. I want to sign an NDA with the seller, get all the information, have my buyer sign an NDA with me, and then pass that information on. Does that make sense?
Is that purely just so there's like trail of evidence that I was clearly the one that is brokering the deal?
No, it's mostly because, well, one, the NDA, we want them to say, hey, listen, you can't say anything about this business legally,
Right, of course.
but I don't want that seller to have my buyer's information. If like, I don't want him to call them and be like, try to figure out who they are, whatever it is, because that could happen. Like it could
Yeah.
happen. So what I would do is just,
That's what's happened with me to one business. That's why I asked, because the seller was like, "Hey, we need the personal information of the potential buyer, and we need them to sign our NDA as well." And I'm like, "Well, if they do that, then they can just talk to you directly. You don't even need me anymore at that point, you know?" So that's where I'm like,
yeah.
"How does that work?"
You could do that. We have a buyer's representation agreement, so you can kind of put it to the buyer that they're going to do that. You could also, you could say, hey, when we sign the if you're going to do it, the purchase agreement, I mean, there's a lot of things. I think it's the way that you talk to them and understand, and just say, hey, listen, I don't really want to give this information because if you don't have me, I tell you what, can we sign an exclusive listing just for this? Are you talking? Is it the broker or is it actually the seller that you're worried about?
I could be worried. I mean, I don't not necessarily worry about the buyer as much, unless they feel like, hey, they're going to get a really good deal, but the seller's like, hey, I'm not going to sell this thing if I have to pay that fee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you can also, another thing that you can do too is, that's what we're doing with the gas station, is bump the price up. And if the seller's fine, if the buyer's fine with it, by adding that to your commission, like the guy's totally fine with it. It's a bigger deal. I mean, it's 1.25, which in the world of business brokering is like a baby, right? Compared to most brokers don't do anything under 5 million. So, but it seems big. It's 1.2, million for the gas station. But the buyer, it was like, I'm paying cash, just put your commission on top of that. That's totally fine. Because the
And
seller didn't pay it.
do we do when we're doing that kind of a deal, is it different than when we're just doing it like obviously like a listing agreement with someone? Like is the percentage different? Yeah, is it more of a finder's fee? Like, hey, I found you
No,
a buyer.
I would stick I would stick to your guns as much as you can, 15%, and say it's what this would be, because you're getting a good steal of a deal, because there's not like there's going to be due diligence, and they're going to have to do their own valuation essentially as the buyer, right? We kind of like, there's no appraisal like it would be in real estate, so it's a little different. It's not like you have an appraiser coming out and saying, now if you have an SBA loan, like they're going to want to look at the financials and things like that. But if it's a cash deal, he's like, no, it's totally good. He's totally fine with it. An extra 150 grand for him is, on a 1.2, he don't care. So just kind of the work in the deals that's the fun part about business brokering, is like every deal is a little different with that. It's not so, it's not always the
Yeah.
same. So do you have another question?
Hey,
Well, I'll let everybody else jump in.
Okay, we'll come back to you then. What's up, Ryan?
hey, Travis. Morning, guys. Hey, so I was talking to Deb the other day regarding the gas station, and she had mentioned that there's an ability to do like a JV deal, what I would call a JV deal, right? From the real estate days. So, if the gas, let's say a seller is being represented by another broker, she mentioned there was
real quick. Explain what a JV deal is real quick, so everyone kind of is on the same page.
So a JV deal essentially is when you are working with another broker to accomplish, like he represents the seller, you represent the buyer, or vice versa, and you guys would either split the commission or however you guys iron it out.
Okay.
There was a document that she mentioned, and I can't remember what it was. B and BC or something like that. Broker to broker something, and I can't remember exactly what it was. But I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit more on that. Or how brokering is done from a JV standpoint. Does that make sense?
Like if you're working with another broker.
Yeah, let's say if I'm trying to if I got the buyer, or if we got access to a buyer, and I see a gas station up for sale, like I want to connect the two, right? But I still want or at least a portion of my commission. Can we do a JV deal and get this accomplished?
100%. Like, and usually the stuff's going to be, we can do an internal, like if you guys run into a situation, Hold on one second.
Yep.
She's she's in California. I knew that happened. She's like, oh, I thought it was 12 my time. And I was like, I knew that was gonna happen. But yeah, so if so, what I would do in those situations, I would bring it to us so we can have if it's like, are you talking like internal or like internal brokers or external, like internal to external? What I mean is like BizBroker plus broker.
Actually, I was hoping more of like external because I know a lot of these gas stations here locally are already representative. There's maybe a
Yeah.
handful that are just mom and pop, you know?
Yeah.
So
I would do a buyer rep with your, so you guys have the understanding of that. We have that agreement too. I would do one of those if you're going after like co-op deals, but it should be in the purchase agreement that you should be able to say, hey, this is how much I'm getting. Does that make sense?
yeah, but there wouldn't be an additional agreement between you as a broker and the seller's broker. Would there
No,
be?
it wouldn't be, because think of it like in real estate, you put your commission down there and that's what the buyer's getting paid. The way it works in real estate is when I go get a listing, I say it's 6%. And that's 6%. I get 6%. So if I find the buyer or anything happens and there's no buyer's agent, like, and then I get all 6%. That's just how it works. If there is, the buyer's agent will put in the purchase agreement 3%. And then I give them that. Now I get 3, they get 3. Does that make sense? So
Okay.
I will tell you though, like, and when Deb jumps on, she's had a couple conversations with different people. Like, you have to talk to that broker, because a lot of brokers in this industry will not co-op.
Oh,
No, that will be like, no, sorry, I don't do co-ops. You can give me your buyer if you want, if your buyer really wants this. So yeah, so she's had a couple of situations. She's like, are you kidding me? It's like 1.2. She's like, no, they don't want to split. This industry is not like, it's not set up like real estate, and it's not a setup for like doing JV deals like that. It's not. A lot of them, the old school, they so used to getting 99% of the business on their listings. If you come with a buyer, they might be like, no, or they may give you like a partial commission. And they may just be like, no, sorry, I got buyers. It's fine. It's going to close eventually. I'd rather take that. I'd rather get 15% later than 7.5% now. Just unfortunately, that's how it works. Especially when you start working with California. I'm not going to say
yeah.
that. We don't have any California people on here yet. So she gets on here. She should be coming here.
So Travis, what do you do in that instance? Because I mean, you want to be able to supply your buyer with a good opportunity. Is it then just saying, hey, if I'm going to support you in this, it's on you to pay my commission?
You would have to do that.
Okay.
You would say, I think you would preface the conversation that, hey, are you in a position to, I have a couple potential, and you don't give anything out. You say I have a couple potentials. And I will let you know that I've talked to some of the brokers and they're not willing to, the sellers aren't willing to pay the commission that I have, or the broker's not willing to. Is that something that you think you can do? And that's really knowing that what their financing options are too, right? So if their financing options are cash, well, what's a different story? If it's an SBA loan, well, then you need to figure out how that's going to work with their lender. And just like I think in real estate, get them to if they're going for a getting lending, get them to the lender as soon as possible. As soon as possible. For one, you don't want to waste your time. Two, they might have things that they need to get set up that kind of can prep them for the sale. So while you're in the middle of a due diligence period and you're going through that, you're not getting like blindsided by something that you could have avoided. Like if you would have had like 60 days to play around with, you know what I mean? Whether it's tax returns, whether it's whatever it is, right? So that is a huge situation for that. When I was a lender, that was the hardest thing. Is they're like, no, I'm just yep, we're under contract. You've been pre-qualified. Nope. And you're like, okay, well, let's just hope this goes the way that you want it to go. But many times there's just things that you can't account for until you go through it. So get them to the lender as soon as possible if you're in that situation. But yeah, that would be the only thing that you could do. What I would do in that situation, I would, obviously talk to my buyer and try to get them in, and try to see if that's something they can do. But if not, I would, nonchalantly just push it off and be like, that's okay. I'm gonna find you another one. That doesn't sound like it's probably a good deal anyways for you, because I would hate to pay actually more than I have to, because they won't do that. There's so many other options out there. And then I would go and I would drop letter and I would call every gas station that I possibly could to find them one who wants to sell. They're out there. And I mean, gas stations are, they're everywhere, every corner, right? They're corner stores that are everywhere. So that's what I would do. I would go and try to get a listing, because if you can talk to a business owner and they're like, yeah, I'll totally do that. The cool part about that is that you're going to find, as Deb did, if she's getting on, that you're going to find that they own 7 businesses, right? You're going to find that out. And then that can honestly, yeah, that's what it's all about. Business owners a lot of them are serial entrepreneurs. So there's very few business owners like, oh, I'm just going to get rich off of this one business. Now, if it's a big business, like a big roofing company, or it's a big kind of those things, it's going to happen. But it won't, I would say most of them are serial entrepreneurs, especially gas stations. Like they want to own multiple ones because they see how lucrative they are. And that's really where the money is as you start, going multiple times, you start figuring out the process too. Yeah. To answer your question. Cool. You got something else, JJ?
Yeah, mine was in relation to like connecting with potential listings. I've had a number of conversations just this last week with guys that kind of have just started listing their business, and they've already, I mean, of course, it's new, so people are calling them and whatnot. So I think they're hopeful that they're going to be able to sell it on their own. But they also are like, hey, but if I don't sell it like in the next month, or they say stuff like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
you're not selling in a month. Then I'll talk, let's talk, or 2 months from now or something like that. So part of me is like, what is if you had those kind of conversations, like what are best practices of like how often we should or shouldn't like check in with these owners? Obviously I'd wait the minimum, however much they said, but if there's not like some specified date that they've been like, hey, check back with me in, March. What's your opinion on that?
So that is actually you guys are all kind of pointing to the exact what we're actually working on this today, the course, which was going to be, which is that. It's exactly what that is and we basically use a cadence for this to say, okay, we're just going to keep following up with them. One thing that we also do is we want to get you guys in is making your own newsletter, right? Making something that you can say, hey, I'm not trying to sell you something. What I'm trying to do is give you information about businesses, what I'm seeing in the strategies, anything like that, but also some of my other listings. And what you're trying to do is just stay in front of them, right? So there's one thing of being like, well, what do I say to this person? Like, what do I say? I call them like, hey, I know I talked to you last week. You weren't interested. Are you still interested? And like, you know what I mean? So I think the biggest thing is that you can have conversations with them. And the best thing I think for you guys is to start coming up with your own newsletter, your own branding. Hey, we're BizBroker Plus and we do our own newsletter, but I want you guys to start, when you meet these, it's such a great touch point for you all to be able to show that, hey, like I'm a leader in this industry, and you can send it once a week. They're super easy with AI. You can make them really quick. And you can just send them out to your people, right? There's so many different ones that are dirt cheap to do, whether it's MailChimp. It's very simple. So that's one thing that in the course we will talk about that. I would say there's 2 ways of following up with them. One is a dedicated setup to the next call, obviously, right? And then also you can send them comparables, which is a really cool thing to do. So do you have a business that you specifically are talking to an owner? It's better to give examples with this because then I can kind of tell you.
Like one of them is just like a family owned 30-year, successful, making 100 and something grand a year HVAC company. That's
Okay.
like owner operate with like one other technician and a secretary, part-time secretary.
Yeah. I think a cool value add would be if, so have you talked to that business owner before? What was the conversation like? Was it
Really
like, is he
good.
interested in selling or what's he looking?
No, he's trying to sell. So he's trying to do it on his own. So I'm sure it's someone he knew, I'm guessing, based off of like the tone, some guys that he knows that might buy it from him kind of thing.
Got it. So could happen, could not with that guy, that business owner could happen, could not. Could not. So I'd say odds are probably won't. And so what you want to do is like, how do I show him value? Is as I would probably try to find some HVAC companies. Um, and I would probably shoot for the moon with some of them when you find them, like go on Biz Buy Sell, go on there. Don't send the link, but I would send a screenshot. And I would say, I was like, man, these things are sounding like hotcakes. Here's one. Like, and send them some things that actually show value that you're actually showing them. Like, and then you can say, then you can kind of go along those lines of like, show them, hey, the HVAC companies looks like they're selling pretty crazy out now. Like, want to make sure you're getting the most for it and just kind of show him value, right? And so it's not always about trying to sell them. It's always like just touching base, see where you're at. Like, just do something random that's like, hey, I just saw this HVAC company and thought of you. How's the process going, right? And that's what I would kind of do in that situation, is because we're trying to show some actually like care within it, right? Some care, and show him that, hey, I'm actually looking at HVAC companies. And then what my thought is like, how do I put myself in that seller's position to say that JJ's the guy? Like, how do I do that? And that would be the best thing is, are you just calling HVAC companies to try to get my business, or are you actually looking? And then he goes, oh man, he knows the HVAC companies that are out there. And you could even send him something that's like, hey, listen, I saw 5 HVAC companies that I think could be similar to yours. Do these sound like they're similar to yours? Like, and it could be, and then you could send him the links and say, tell me, like, what do you think? And he could be like, and you're being interested in his business. Oh no, they have more employees. Like, I don't have that many employees. Oh no, I'm way better than them. And so you're kind of showing that. So when it gets to the point that he's like, that deal didn't work out, like, you don't have to spend a lot of time. But if you're out perusing, man, and he's on your radar, I would definitely send him some similar properties, some similar. I mean, it's the same thing we do in real estate. It's like, I want to send you something that's similar, especially if you're a seller, right? Looks like this one sold, or this one's on the market. Does that match yours? Mine's way better. Okay. Oh, I'm not going to be able to get that much. I don't have that many employees, or whatever it is. And so I think you can show them value just by showing them that you're actually interested in their business by looking at other businesses like that. Make sense? Yeah. Deborah, you're on the hot seat. You're mute. You're on mute.
Hello, I made it.
That's Californians, man. I tell you, this was at the beach, probably.
You know
Just
what? If I had been raised in the era that you had, then I might know technology a little bit better.
you're doing great. You
You
sell
literally
good.
have to get on the phone and walk me through what I'm doing.
Yeah, but you sell good, and that's probably more important than any piece of technology. So, I wanted to bring Deb on here. Full transparency, she is my mother-in-law. She's been doing this she's been doing not business brokering, but she's been in the real estate business, lending and real estate for over 30 years. She knows that business like the back of her hand, and I learned so much from her. I learned a lot of my lending from her, just watching her, but she is a problem solver. And I think that is one thing that you're going to realize more than even in real estate. Maybe not in lending. Lending's, a lot of problem solving. But as far as business brokering, every deal is going to be a little different, whether it be from the financing, whether it be from just the type of person. I mean, business owners, there's multiple types of owners, right? And own multiple businesses. And so it's every transaction's a little different, and the niche is going to be different also, right? You go into a gas station from a gas station to a t-shirt shop to a roofing company to like, they're just so different. And so you can't ever you can't ever assume that you're going to know everything, because you're never going to know anything and you never will. But what you can
Right.
do is you can be a really good problem solver. And I think that I wanted to bring her on for a couple of reasons. One, to talk about her deal that she's kind of working, and just kind of explain and tell everybody the story, Mom, about kind of how you came about finding this gentleman that you're talking to in Arizona about the gas station. So if you want to just give a little backstory on kind of how you came about with this gas station, the whole process of that, just to kind of give a little clarity to the situation before I dive in and start asking you questions.
Oh, sure. So over here in Temecula, I have an assistant who helps go out and look for business for me, for clients. And we just happen to be both searching on the same site for gas stations for sale. And we came across a gentleman in Arizona, and I think we got really lucky, for many reasons. He owns 17 businesses, and he wants to sell most of them off, and he wants to do a few at a time. And unfortunately, it's for unfortunate circumstances that this is happening. But when I saw the post, he put very basic information, but he did leave his phone number. So I started out with a text message to him, introducing myself and letting him know that I had clients that were interested in the gas stations. And he eventually kept responding back to me, and we kept going back and forth. And then we finally got to a point. He had clients that he had gotten on his own, buyers he had gotten on his own. And he kind of felt like he was going to be able to move his businesses by himself. And then I allowed him that time to go and evaluate his buyers that he had in hand. And he came back and he said, Deb, I can't do this by myself. Could you do this for me? And I just gave him the time to do that. So now we're at the point where we're getting P&Ls for the businesses. I have connected with Sam with BizBroker Plus, and Ryan also, and which is great because Sam has buyers. I'm getting the seller. He's got the buyers, which I'm all for that. If we can put the buyer and seller together, then it's great. And it's really interesting because when I first started, Travis asked me if I was interested in coming to work with him for him. And at first, as I started into everything, even though I'm a broker and I've been doing this for a long time, it's a new learning curve for me as well. But it's exciting, it's fascinating. And as I'm moving through things and having conversations with people, I'm gaining more self-confidence in what I'm doing. And I'm understanding more how the process works and the business side of it. Because I know residential investment, I know commercial, but this is a whole new animal. And for many reasons. One, you've got the business you can sell by itself, or sometimes it comes with the real estate. So you've got two different situations there when you're looking at the business side of it. So anyway, with and what's interesting too is when I talk to Sam and when I talk to Ryan, the one thing that I'm grateful for is that we're all anxious to work together and make this work. And I really feel that with both of them. And I think it's great. I think we've all got a really good opportunity here.
Love that, Mom. I think that is, I mean, that is awesome. And I think that that's what you're going to find out. What we found out from, and just the groups that I'm in, all the time, talking about business is that you are going to find that there's so many business owners that own so many businesses. And so I said seven, but you said 17, right? Did you say you own 17 businesses?
Oh, I'm sorry. Say that again. It cut out.
Did you say 7 businesses he owns or 17?
he owns 17 businesses. And you know what? I'm not pushing him. I'm not pressuring him. I'm just allowing him to do things as he's comfortable doing them. And I'm making a lot of progress with that too. And then also, like, when I'm talking to Sam or when I'm talking to Ryan, I can see where, because I'm a broker, there's things I can teach them, but they're also teaching me as well. We're all teaching and helping each other. And that's a blessing. That's just a blessing that we can have that with one another, because we each have our own strengths and weaknesses, and then we complement each other when we're pulled together with one another as well.
Yeah, I think that's what
But
I'm definitely trying to build here too. We are trying to build something that is unheard of in business brokering, is that just the
yes.
collaborative effort that you guys are doing, and it's great because it benefits the Main Street business more than anything. And we look at this as like, some of these businesses are, like this gas station, I think it's around 1.2 million, right? Which is,
Yeah, each one of them, the three he has, to start.
in business brokering terms, that is a small fish, which is most business brokers don't do anything under 5 million. So it's 8,800 business brokers in the US. Of the half that are really active, they don't do anything under that. So for us, we look at it as like, oh my gosh, 1.2, especially if we're new in its industry and you're like at 15%, like that's a crazy amount of money. But
Mhm.
these business owners who own these businesses, they're not getting blown up by business brokers. And if they do, I know that they're not getting the follow up like they need, because they don't see the urgency in it. So I want to ask you a couple questions about that. So I know he was working with some buyers, he said, but you had a
Mhm.
conversation, and what turn, and like what that conversation look like? Why he said, "Hey, yeah, I'll have a conversation with you because these other brokers are, there was something that he actually wanted to have a conversation with you. What was that?"
Well, I think when we first started out, he had already tried to for sale by owner his businesses, and he thought he could do it himself. And he had a few buyers in hand. And what happened eventually was he didn't disclose anything to me, and I just kind of allowed him the time. And I know myself, when people go to try to sell something themselves, I know what's going to happen. In the end, they're going to throw their hands up and they're going to say, I just can't do this. I got to go find a professional. And that's what he basically did, because when he came back to me, he goes, Deb, my buyers have $25,000 to buy my $1.2 million gas station. That just is not going to work. And here I've got Sam over here who's got cash buyers, no loan, no combination, and they own other businesses. These guys are multimillionaires. And so he finally realized, after getting on the phone with me, he wanted to get on the phone with me. He said, Deb, you know what? I'll give you a small commission if you sell these gas stations for me. And that's how he came back to me. And then I was able to open the conversation up more and let him know what I needed, and ask him, if he was willing to do a listing agreement. And of course he wants to do a short term, but I'm just not pushing him. I'm just letting him come to me with what he wants to do. And I'm letting him know what we've got available right now. And he knows I'm a broker. So now I think he's started to see things a little clearer. And that's kind of how it sort of has transpired. And it's just, we're moving forward little by little as our conversations evolve. And when we did get on the phone, it was a great conversation. I was a little nervous because I thought he was going to interrogate me, with what do I know
I
about gas
remember having that
stations?
conversation with you.
What
And
do
you're
I
like, what
know
am I
about gas
saying? I was like,
stations?
just be yourself, mom. Just be your authentic
I'll
self.
tell you, I was Googling for 24 hours before that call. I was Googling everything I could about a gas station. What do I need to know? How do I do this?
What did he ask you though? Did he ask you anything like about the gas station that like threw you, or was it kind of just about like, tell me a little bit about that conversation?
It didn't even go that direction. I think because of all the text message I sent to him, I think he knew I knew what I was doing, even though I didn't
Yeah.
know I was doing. And so when we got on the phone call, he was he was not what I expected. He was extremely nice, very pleasant to talk to, and just let me know, just opened up with information that I was going to need in order to sell his businesses. And then if we can move forward and find a viable buyer and get in contract and sell these three, he's going to give me the rest of what he wants to sell. And so we're in a good place right now. And, I never look at, okay, we're going to close this deal. I always look at where we're at right now and where we need to go next, and just keep focusing on that and taking us to the next step, to the next place through the transaction or the
So
process.
tell us a little bit about the source. Where did you
Mhm.
get this? Get this guy? Where are you hunting? Because I think that some of the biggest things is that we need to know is like, what are the source that you got this guy from? And so tell everybody about how you
Well,
found him.
you had let me know to go on for businesses for sale by owners, and I picked him up.
On Facebook, business for
off
sale by
of.
owner on Facebook groups. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry. What?
No, I just want to make sure everyone knows it's businesses
Oh,
for sale
by owner on
by
Facebook.
owner on Facebook groups. The course
Correct.
that we're doing is all upon this too, of like
Oh,
finding
yeah.
and how to comment on them, how to DM them. So the course that we're going to be working on, which will be the art of discovery, will come out, and then we'll have the next one. It's going to detail everything. So my mom's lucky because she gets the inside track. She calls me all the time and it's like, what do I do? And I'm like, this is what you do.
I know.
And so, yes, keep going, go on.
It's like, Travis, you own the business. You tell me what to do, You tell me what to do here. So here's the good thing. Because I'm a lender. So I do residential, I do second homes, investment, DSCR, fix and flip, commercial. I do all of it. And I'm going to reach out to, is it Scotty, to learn about the SBA loans as well, just because I want the knowledge. Whether I get involved in it or not, is another story, but I'd love to learn about it, So anyway, with the for sale by owners on Facebook, because I'm a lender, I had already been on the internet, and I search and get clients for commercial loans for multi-unit investment property. People need DSCRs, people need fix and flips. And I've been fortunate to get a lot of clients. You have to build up your reputation online, at first, as everyone knows, because everyone looks at everyone else as like, okay, this is just another scam to get a loan. But when you're putting your credentials out there, your business cards, and they know you're licensed, and they look at my website, the one thing I do is I post all my transactions on my Facebook website. So if people want to go search me out, they're going to know I'm doing business. I'm actively doing business and what I'm doing. So then people are calling. Now I've got people calling me. I've got people calling me every day just doing the loans. And so when Travis mentioned to go in on the business side and start searching, I went on the site. He recommended it first, for sale by owner, businesses for sale by owner. And I picked up my client, Dawn. And then I also, at the time, at first, I started looking for gas stations for sale by owner. So I broke it down even further. And gas stations for sale in California, because I have an assistant who has my magnet with my name and information on it, and he drives all over Temecula, Murrieta with. And he's picked up a multi-million-dollar client who wants a gas station in California. So then I'm going, gas stations for sale by owner in California, and I'm trying to search out in different ways. So.
Yeah. I think that's really good. We're getting close to the time that we gotta. So I want to be aware of everyone's time, but the one thing that you're pointing to also is as a niche. A niche is so important to understand that where you're really like. You're going to put me in front of a restaurant. I'm not going to know what, like an owner of a restaurant. I'm not going to know what the heck to talk about. Like, I'm just not. Like, I'm just not going to know. I don't know that. You put me in front of somebody that's like in a gym, any health, anything business wise that's you know, kind of has to do with processes. Got it. Technology, got it. But so you'll figure out what your niche is. Not that you're gonna have to, I think, sell everything, but figure out a niche. It doesn't have to be one that you're passionate. But the thing that she's saying is she found that gas stations are very lucrative.
That's
People are
my
looking
niche.
for them.
Yep.
Their people are looking for them. So, and there's so many of them, right? So if you need a
Oh,
gas,
yeah.
if you have somebody, a buyer that says, like, I want a gas station, and you are constantly just calling and talking to gas station owners, well, it's going to be an easy, like, thing for you to do. So find a niche. It's a really great niche, gas station. There's a gas station for sale by owner on Facebook.
Yeah.
You can even niche
Yeah.
down the groups too. There's
Yeah.
like, I think there's different health ones too. There's restaurants for sale. You can niche that part down too. So the amount of groups that you possibly be a part of is really endless to find those. So I think it's very important to do that, but figure out what your niche would be. Not that you have to enjoy that. That has to be the thing that you're really good at, but maybe a business niche. You're like, you know what, I could go after that. And it could be the purpose of, hey, the profitability of them, the market that people are looking for them, and the amount of buyers that are in the market. So I think you can look at that. That's a huge thing. I think we always need to address as a niche. And so the cool thing about that, the cool thing about that is what we're trying to build with this mastermind is that when Deb gets really good at gas stations and you come across a gas station and you're like, I need help. I don't know anything about gas stations. How do I do this? Well, Deb's going to be there to help you and say, yeah, I got you. You want to call and I'll walk you through it. And the same thing goes with restaurants, and the same thing goes with, because business brokering is so big. It's so big that there's so many different ones. If someone's like, I have an Amazon drop shipping business, and you're like, I have no idea. The goal is that we have somebody in this group that starts niching that, and you can go, yeah, let's jump on a call. I'll walk you through it. Not that they want to business, but they want to help you because that helps us as a whole. And so that's what we're building in Business Brokerage, and Business Broker Plus. That I absolutely love, because it's a community that we're all just helping each other, and eventually we'll just take over. The goal for our year this year is 500 business brokers in BizBroker Plus. And I say that number strategically because if we have 500 brokers in our business, we are the largest business brokering firm in the United States. 500.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to recruit anyone now. I've actually put a freeze on it at this point until we get these courses done, because I want to build something that is something that is scalable, and that we can actually, when people come on, they have a map. And so I'm fine to put the brakes on, because as we build this, it's going to be great. But I want you guys to see the vision of what we're trying to build, because it's bigger than me. It's bigger than us. It's really going to hopefully change and revolutionize this business brokering industry is my whole goal of this. And so it starts with you guys. It starts with you. And so what I want to do is every week we're going to put someone in the hot seat. So I appreciate you, Deb, being on. I'm excited.
You're welcome.
Please keep us updated on these deals, because
I definitely will. Yes, I will.
next week we are bringing on Sherry, though. So I think I told her that, but next week we're going to have Sherry in the hot seat. Sherry is one of the very first brokers that we brought on. And you guys know, if you're in Minnesota, she was the very first. And she basically took everything that we did, literally, and went and did it. And then how many listings do you have, Sherry?
I have 8 active, lots more in the works. In the first month, I had 6.
Yes.
Congratulations.
And so she was one of our aha moments that, everything that we were saying, it works. Like, it truly does.
It does.
So next week, don't miss. We're not gonna give anything away, Sherry. I'm not gonna give anything away. Come back next week, because Sherry's gonna explain exactly what she did and what she does on a daily basis. And we've already learned that she's not great at follow-up. So it's gonna be even better.
It is.
Sweet. All right, guys. Well, it is 1 o'clock. I want to be aware of time. I appreciate you guys. Anybody have anything before we go? Any questions or anything that you really need answered? Whoever is new here, I really appreciate you guys. I hope to see you guys next week. If you guys need anything, remember, reach out to support. We also have a new support. If you just go on to hub.bizbrokerplus, there's a support ticket there. You can go ahead and put that in also. Anything you all need, please reach out to us. We're here to help you guys. Okay.
Travis, I have one question for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm Dave.
On the broker site, when I look at brokers, when is it that we get to have our information on there in case we refer people to the site?
Yes, sir. That is great. If you guys would do this, if you want, you can just email support and say, hey, that's the one thing they have to have is your headshot. That's the one big thing. So if you don't have, if you have your headshot in your profile, in there, he'll just be able to pull that. And then I would just say connect to support and say, hey, can you add me to the brokers on the website? And they'll get that done within 24 hours. Good question.
Awesome, thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Sweet. Well, I will see you all later. You have a blessed week, okay?
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Sure.
Talk to you
All right,
guys.
bye.
All right, bye-bye.